If you guys didn't follow my story, then you don't know that I started going at Peter Thiel like, oh gosh, it was 2011, 12? I don't remember. It was quite a long time ago. And some of the people here were like, oh, I didn't even know that. Yeah, you didn't know my history with these guys. So, because it was targeting our jobs, just like a Jimmy Kimmel, but women hate us so much they don't care. And then the ACLU didn't care. And I was on Twitter. It was actually, before all this like weird censorship stuff was going on. So I was on Twitter and we all have our business accounts and everything. And there's a community of people and everybody runs a legal job and they have websites and everything. And some ways they used to allow them to use PayPal. And there was all these complaints all of a sudden, and I was seeing all these things online, and luckily, it didn't happen to me or anything. It was just the way that some people are running their businesses and stuff, and they basically the men were trying to obtain free um, content and just different things, right? And then they were telling PayPal, oh, it's fraud, so they can get all their money back and get it for free, right? So they would plot these like things. It was all really weird. And they didn't protect the women. So PayPal didn't protect the women. They took their money. They said they were closing the accounts down and just took the money that was there. And I couldn't believe it was going on. I was just reading all the complaints. And I go, well, who the hell owns PayPal? And I saw Peter's name. So that's how it came up. It wasn't like I even really knew. I didn't know anything about him other than, this was going on. And I was like, that's bullshit. And then, and then all of a sudden, government's making all these strict rules and calling women sluts and, this, that. And mind you, these are legal jobs, okay, guys? So this is really on that. And they were trying to justify it saying, we can't tell the difference and we don't want that crap here, just all this stuff. So you see the controlling factor here. But in the background, these guys are running with human traffickers. And I knew it. It was like any person that's acting like that we need to control women is a human trafficker. I was like, I don't know where the hell is it, like how this would be even anything shocking at this moment when you have like Steve Bannon and, emopath Musk, who's like emotions are like a 5-year-old that are all over the place having a fit, and then he harms himself here and throws his I don't know, dude. You guys, we know he's on the spectrum, so the processing of his brain is all kinds of scrambled, and he gets mad at one person and he throws the kitchen sink at you, right? And then it includes like, stuff that, includes him. We know he has a problem with this too because he was okaying human traffickers on Twitter. And then, so that doesn't shock me one bit. Bannon, obviously, but Peter Thiel was a big one because I knew the most about Peter Thiel as far as like his mindset. He hates women with a passion. He doesn't see other humans as humans. Not even other males, actually. So I was like, yeah, that dude's really creepy. Like, read his thing right here in school. Isn't it crazy that he was able to go through a college and write something like this without being 5150? I mean, something about it, right? So they've chronically wanted to manipulate the medical field as well for men because the crazy men that are off kilter are the ones doing the studies, right? And these are the men that are up here with children and whoever. So also in his background, he hunts down boys. I don't know if he hunts down, I don't know. I didn't read anything that he hunts down minors, but he has hunted down some men to give them money to groom into politics or something weird. There was like chronically things. Even right now, there's people that he went and, got, and Trump has them up here. So Trump is not away from the story by any means. But yeah, so don't overlook that because the mentality, that he was writing was basically like, we're going to trash these women. They're all liars. They know they're not liars. He just has no respect or any connection to other humans. Why that happened? This is the big question, right? That's why I was pulling out the autism thing long before this bullshit came up. because I was noticing it in people. It's harder in the high functioning. So Peter Thiel may be high functioning, but he also, it may have just been from the environment he was in and he didn't develop properly. Because his parents taught him that women are garbage and whatnot, right? So I don't know his family history yet. He's really bad. I mean, really bad. And he's not a victim in this. This isn't a situation where he got duped and he's a victim or anything like that. There is a level of we just don't care. We're totally fine with this conduct. And why would they go tell, you know what I mean? There's just a whole thing to it. So yeah, my cousin texted me today. She's like, "Oh yeah, Peter thought." I was like, "Yeah." Why would I be surprised? Like I was like the lone one throwing, eggs at him from afar. And then I was so angry at ACLU because it was like 10 years later. So now they destroyed our jobs, right? Like they're like, oh, we're going to target your freedom of speech, which it totally is about freedom of speech. Because I went to school to get educated in a topic. I was talking about this. And government's over here telling me I can't do it. But everybody else can, but I can't. And then doing pressure through the way that government did a force on censorship on women was doing forceful things like, oh, who owns the pay processors, right? PayPal, all these different companies. There's about a bazillion companies that do the payment processor things for large companies and stuff. So they put all these pressures on these companies, and if they don't change, if you don't stop, then we're going to cut your whole business off. Okay, so there's a string of conduct. It isn't, oh, government went straight to me and said this. It's that government went up and beyond and then does this thing down the line. And then, no, they've been manipulating our free speech online. They're manipulating the algorithm. So if you come at me for that and then mute me there, then you manipulated the algorithm already. But they did it enough to where you couldn't find anybody. And then it was crazy. And I kept talking about it very transparently in the public. At no time did ACLU come out. Nope. And nobody else like knew who Peter was. Like the people that were even being targeted on the PayPal thing, like they don't even know who they're dealing with. They're just like PayPal. And I was starting to study. I was like looking them up because I'm like, well, who's the person I need to chew out? I was trying to figure it out because they didn't know. And then so he was like one of the big billionaire at that time. I don't know if he was a billionaire yet. Maybe he was, but I know he was a major multimillionaire at that time. So now all these guys are ripping us off, running us over, getting into politics, and then muting us down more and then causing people to go homeless. Like there was multiple people in that whole thing that some people did lose their house or their apartments and because they couldn't do their job. I mean, that's what's going to happen, right? You target someone's job, they're going to probably go homeless. I mean, how are they going to pay their bills, right? So this is the idiotic bullshit that men do. And then they have to pay for it, right? Through the government system. So these idiots were going on like that. Then they started promoting the IRS to go after some women for no F reason. And we've already talked about our battle with them. We're still kind of battling, but they hate women as well, sex shame, say that they don't care if you die, if you can't eat. They will go at you privately and make threats and then do horrible, atrocious criminal conduct in the background without anybody in the public knowing about it. And then pretending up here that they're good people. I don't know. There's a whole thing. So we could tell that there was some organized crime going on inside the IRS as well. But because nobody in the public should be able to do that. Like, I just hate a group of people. Hey, will you go target them? And that's kind of what those guys did. And we think that LAPD did that as well, in regards to a case because one of the mothers was doing tax stuff. I believe that was her thing. So, yeah, they're able to use government agencies as weapons on women for no reason, no good reason, just doing it. And then LA County out here has a thing where they don't have any care in the world that they've been doing that with the traffic enforcement. So when they're taking cars and chalking them, oh yeah, they said that any of these guys, anybody, can call daily on you, and they don't have any discretion about it. And I go, wow, I don't think that should be going on. I think you should be taking names and numbers and information on them. They're like, we don't do that. I'm like, well, you should be. So we could reference who the perpetrator is. It could be Peter Thiel. How do we not know? We don't know, right? I believe that was Peter Thiel in that thing. I believe it was a law enforcement officer from the gang members that they're going out right now. Or one of the other shady asses that are up in here on the celebrity side. Yeah. So one of those two parties. So, but it could be this party too, because one of the oddities in this entire thing was, as we are looking at the sheriff gangs, now they were targeting me, like the gems and the when we're talking about Garcetti and the tie with Beck. Okay, so there was a thing here, and they but it was the sheriff thing I was bringing up too. So yeah, so they started wanting to erase that information from the public. Again, free speech. They are for censorship, and they're bullshit people. It's only for white men, so it was all garbage. They had no justification for removing any of that information. It was valid, factual, and they're getting in bigger trouble now from all this stuff. And I was very factual. I didn't post things. Okay, so on the earliest portion, I said it was just a bunch of garbage when I first started posting on there. But then at a point, it did become more of like investigative journalist almost, like without trying. It just was like, oh, I know this information. So when I was here, blah, 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 happened, this, that, the other, and then just factual information regarding law enforcement corruption because I was there and they did it on me. And I go, yeah, I think that's kind of their big thing, is that they know I know. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is that I know, they know that I know. I mean, front, face, and center, they know I know. And I was like, yeah, that, I guess that, if you're a gang member, that would be a serious thing. She knows too much. I mean, that really is the story, is she knew too much. I mean, it sounds so stupid, but I mean, that's really what happened, because I never partook in any of the criminal conduct with them or without them. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. These weirdos are popping up. They didn't want to have it. So they erased everything. And then they were saying accidents happen. All kinds of weird shit. And I was like, yeah, so anyway, with the Peter thing, yeah, so all these people lost a lot of income, and he's over here rolling in the dough, and then, they're just talking about how he gives money to these men, or he finds them and he gives them money like a sugar daddy. And I'm like, well, isn't that what some people do? And you're trying to do a double standard here. So you're trying to act like your morals are somehow higher than somebody else's. What you're doing sounds like human trafficking, so I don't know, but we can't, you know what I mean? You just get a portion of the story, but nobody cares that it's done on a male. And that's another problem. So at that time when we're reading this stuff, it's just way back in the day when everybody's just like, oh, men are not victims, and la, 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 la. And then I was noticing these gay monsters, man. They're gay monsters. Like, there's no other good term for it. They're just gay men who are monsters. They literally, and this isn't for all gay men, this is like, these gay men hate deep down inside women, like big time. And they don't have respect for other men. So it isn't like, oh, they hate us and have respect for other men. No, they see them as tools to use for their criminal conduct. And so that's what they were doing here. And all these people that are, faking it up in here with human trafficking and, the Kirk thing that happened, like, those are the people that they're looking for, though. Those are their, white supremacists that they're looking for, that are deeply void, that want to tell a woman what to do. And she's going to dedicate her whole life to some man and not give a shit about herself. Okay, so that's what's going to happen there. And when we were talking about Jeffrey Epstein, since I was one of the early ones that jumped on the story too, I wasn't the first one. I definitely was not the first. Somebody pointed it out to me, and it was sort of underground. It was a weird story that ran my way because I was talking about the topic generally. And I looked at it, and I there was nothing fake about it. It was just I was trying to wrap my mind around it because I wasn't taken to an island from these guys. Like I kept warding off going to places with them that was outside of California. I went to one place, but that was at these shows. And so I didn't get involved in the business world, like in that aspect. They came to me. When we're talking about the other job, okay, so these rich dudes would come in to LA County, and then I was talking about that ring. So there's a human trafficking ring over there. But they intermix with all these other people because they're all the rich businessmen, whatever, whatever. And I had relayed that to that Tim Ballard bullshit Christian crap. You know what I mean? Like this whole thing. Then all they're doing is covering it up. And I reported it to LA County. They covered it up and they used a Sharpie, and then it was ridiculous. And then they outed me after I told them that there's corrupt sheriff. So I was explaining, this thing about it, and I was like, yeah, I need my identity hidden because we don't know what we're dealing with, okay? That's really the thing, because it was a much bigger thing, actually, as you guys see, and we're still not scratching the entire surface of this, because like I said at the initial intro, it was like, oh, there's a couple of bad cops over here doing some crap. And then, but they were dealing with the underworld of organized crime, outside of government. So I was like, yeah, we don't really know. And these are really rich men. This isn't street dude, you know what I mean? It isn't that. So I was like, just do it that way, because we know they kill people. So let's make sure that I'm safe, and I'm going to report this, though, because they owe me money, and it shouldn't be going on. And when they go in there, they'll probably catch the rest of it, and it'll get total bust. Oh, no. Oh, no. So I knew there was something worse than this. Something way worse than this after that happened. And I was really concerned. And it felt like somebody leaked the information, because I was continually getting stopped by these officers, and they were like just making up shit. Like there was all kinds of weird stuff. And but I was saying the one group of them didn't know who I was, and they purposely ambushed me, and they go, we know you're wanted, and we think you're doing this XYZ. And I'm like, really? No, but if I am, I'm scared because somebody made something up. But okay. So he had no probable cause either to harass me. So he's like, you better tell me now, because it'll be better for you right now. And I'm like, I was like, I don't even know what the hell's going on here. It seems so fake. It was like, are they setting me up? Like, I don't know. I was thinking, I don't know. It was just scary. And so I was like, you go do that. Here's my ID. If I get arrested, then we're gonna have to fight something. I don't know what the hell this is about, right? And he wouldn't say why he was bothering me. He's like, we know you're wanted. I was like, am I? I'm always wanted. You want my autograph? So no. So he goes and checks it, and he comes back, and he's freaked out. That particular one kind of indicates there's a bigger, like some other problem. Like they just at random did that. I don't know. Like I can't answer it. And then he said, oh, somebody else called on you. I'm like, well, first of all, I could call on anybody, but you have no probable cause to get me. And I work right here. This is my job right here. And I did nothing wrong. Like there's nothing, you guys, like nothing. And then he turns beet red, and he's like, okay, bye. And he takes off. And I go, oh, wow, that is something. So that was one of them after the report. And those actually might be sheriff, which I thought it was LAPD. And we just assumed we knew where all these people came from. And then they started questioning me. And I'm like, I don't know, actually. I was like, wait, I actually don't know, because I didn't even get his card, because I was too glad I didn't get arrested or something, And he's like, okay, bye. And he takes off. and nothing, further happened, but it's just misconduct completely and some bullshit, right? But we don't know who it is, and it very well could have been the sheriff. So when I was doing this thing that they told me to do, I called over there and I asked him, I go, do you patrol the city of, Culver City, blah, 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 do this or that? He's like, well, it could have been us, or it could have been those other guys. But then he makes this comment, which was very shady. He's like, well, nothing happened to you, so what do you want us to do about it? Like, what's your problem? That's the comment that was made. That was a comment that was made. That's not good. So this is before they outed the gang thing. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So this is probably another gang. I don't know which gang is in the Culver City one. I would have to look. There's like 24 gangs. So I was like, oh, crap. And I told the public, I go, you don't understand. This isn't like a one-off where there was a bad incident and I just have to go out of department, idiots and that. I go, there's like literally 20 some odd departments and just in the LA County area. We didn't get to Orange County yet. So I was like, there's like 20 some odd departments and the government wants me to go at that? And then at each of the departments, you have to figure out who did it. Like, is it the sheriffs or is it LAPD or CHP? Because CHP, we do think, was also a part of this. And I was like, how in the hell? Like, I am not capable. Number one, you guys, I'm not capable of getting the information on the computer. A lawyer may be able to force that out of them. Even the people that work the desk there, when they're actually cooperating, because actually there's been many times where the front desk people, and I'm trying to call them, I'm asking them questions, they're cooperating, they're looking on the system. Like something's not there. But there's other systems, because if they have other information, like an internal, there's something else. They have some other thing. They do, because then I called another department and they pulled up something from like 1998, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why do you have it? Because it wasn't even the same city. It was just strange. The whole thing was just strange. So I was just trying to figure out like all these different things. But yeah, so then when I start going at people like Peter Thiel, like just as an example, they will start targeting you. Like, because, so it's like, I don't know what he did in the background. He may have done nothing in the background and just ignored me. He may have been part of this other thing. So on Twitter, back to that, they kept targeting the hell out of me, and out of nowhere, I had been on there for like 10 years. And all of a sudden, all these like hard targets, like making up stuff and just making up stuff. And I go, Jack is a piece of crap for even allowing it, because he's the one allowing it. He's the one making the system and allowing people to do that in retaliation, and then not going through the information that I told them. And then that allowed them to erase very important public information. So when I was posting things like that, I posted two gang members' names, which we didn't know they were actually in that gang at the time. It was just who did the report. And I go, these two are corrupt as shit. And yeah, so they're part of a gang, one of the internal gangs. So I was like, oh, well, yeah, that would piss, I mean, I was like, there's a thing with it. So then Twitter out of nowhere sends me an account. It doesn't make any sense. They were targeting me the whole time. So I don't know, maybe this one day there was a person on the inside that was seeing everything and they were like, oh, wait, look. Because I've never seen them do that ever. I don't know of any other person out here that had this happen. So when somebody makes a complaint on you and tries to get you taken down, they never tell you who did it. They usually go, here's a complaint, and then either yes or no, and boom. Well, this one day, they send me the account and of the mail that did it. They said this person tried to attempt to do this, but we, blah, blah, passed it off, and it's, it was fine. And I go, what the hell? I go, they should do that all the time, because at least if I see who it is, I can understand where it's coming from, and then I can respond to it, right? And say, I disagree with what they're trying to say. But what it was a white male supremacist that did a publication some type of publication, like in the media, and he had two accounts. So the original account for the publication was done in 2006, which made this so shady because literally no one was on Twitter in 2006. Like that was when they made the site, and I'm like, how? Nobody even really knew about it. They were all on MySpace, and I came in. I'm assuming like 2 years later. It was a little while later, like that, and there was hardly anybody on there. It was like talking to yourself, which I basically was for a little while, and I was trying to get everybody to go over there. And so this individual that had a publication that's a white male supremacist had an account already. And then he had a secondary account, and that's the account that he was using to target me. And I go, who the hell is that? It was so left field because I was like, I don't know who that is. And so he's probably related to a Peter Thiel. Like he could be related to anybody, but he did have a publication like Breitbart. It was like a similar thing, but those guys were out here saying free speech, and then doing all the worst things ever. But are they the ones trying to take me down to censorship? You could, I mean, they could be that hypocritical. I just never seen it from the one guy, but these are two different people. So I was like, yeah, I don't understand it. It was a very weird day, and it was only one time it ever happened where they showed me who it was. And I'm like, that's throwing me off because, and it could be a law enforcement person also that's involved in supremacist groups that also do media manipulation, and somebody behind it. Like we don't know. It was I'm saying it's left field because I don't really deal with those people. I'll mock those people, like the general population of those guys, but I don't know who that is. And then further it got way worse, and then the Dems were targeting me to all hell. So I had like the Peter Thiels, the right wingers, and also the Dems. And I was like, that is crazy. And no, they're not for free speech because what the hell is this? And it's so weird because I was like, I vote for these people. What is this about now? And they just hate me. So they hate me because I keep pointing out how terrible they are now. Because I go, no, I know you guys were involved in this. And they were. They definitely were. And then people on the left don't want to take that in. I was like, they're terrible people, actually. And you see this case here with Jeffrey, you see they're all in it. It isn't, they start turning this to a political game. And that's really the unfortunate thing. And, as victims, part of this kind of crap are just used as a ping pong ball, right? Just like a joke. Nobody cares about the victims in the story. Nobody cares like what these stupid, powerful people are doing. And for somebody not to get arrested even in my stuff, it's like, yeah, you got some major organized crime going on up in here. And we're not talking about just the cops. I really, really want to stress that. This was a local thing that they told me I had to do on that portion. But the rest of it, different conduct. Like you have to go at a lot of different areas. Like I said, I tried to go at the state bar. That was part of that. Just a number of people. And I was like, yeah, I can't get anywhere. They're highly protected because they created those entities to begin with. But also they gave themselves a legal limitation to when victims can tell on them. And unless you're an attorney, you wouldn't freaking know that. So it was really disgusting that the state bar in California was able to read an email of a guy propositioning me for payment. And to sit there and try to brush it off because they're like, oh, you're a month or two late. So we're not going to put anything on his record. So this is a major problem. It doesn't change the fact the guy's a predator. And they're not disagreeing that the guy's a predator. But they're like, eh. So now he operates, with no thingy on his record. So he looks totally fine and safe, right? He's not. And we have a ton of entertainment lawyers in this arena. And then there's lawyers obviously up in here. And one of the lawyers that was in this thing, the dude. I was like, well, how did I forgot his name. So he's another one I pulled out in the story. So it was like Peter Thiel, and then I pulled out that dude, that Derwich or something rather, and he was trying to legalize being with kids. And I go, see, here's the dynamic that we're fighting against. Because what he's trying to do is use his position of power to rape a bunch of kids and make sure all his friends don't get in trouble. And he's in a position to do it because he's a lawyer. And then, making these cases, that kids, why not make it younger? It was just disgusting. And then so he tries to like justify it by hypotheticals, something like that. It was absolutely wrong. And he's like a Dem, I believe. So it doesn't matter. Like the political thing doesn't matter because on the Dem side, they still have the men that believe they should tell women what to do, which they're still doing. And there's still Christians on the left too. So the same group of nutty ones that are up in here trying to take women's rights away. No, we still have, they still have that group of people there. So then they were all in bed together though here. So if we go back to the Tim Ballard thing, everybody's in bed together at that point in 2010. So it's like Tim Ballard, Trump, Ashton, Kamala, the other Dems, right? So they're all in this thing together, and then they started, promoting this stuff to go after women, basically, and make laws that should have never been made, and harmed a lot of people. And it also targeted the trans community as well. It was really bad, and everybody was telling them, no, don't do it. And then as we're doing it, so the right was flinging out like we're getting paid from George Soros because they're anti-Jew, whatever their bullshit is, and they're saying that we're paid from George Soros. I was like, well, I really wish, because at least it would make this job worth it. No, but they were throwing out fake information, right, to like throw you off that you should be for this and target your gender. And they manipulate it in a way like we're trying to save them, right? So they did this whole other bullshit. And the public still has this view that women need to be watched, and but who are you sending on us, right? These guys right here. You're sending Peter Thiel's on us. You're sending the Elines. You're sending the Trumps. You're sending any, bad word up in here that does not like women, that think they should control them, that they're going to throw them in jail. So you do not want to promote, and then also the gang member activity, okay? Because it's all organized crime, but you're promoting the gang activity onto us, and then they disregarded the gang activity. Like they're listening to it like, you guys just hate law enforcement. I mean, this doesn't even make sense coming from me, right? Like the whole story about it. Like you just hate law enforcement and making up these terms, and there's none of that going on. Okay, so some of the gang members in the sheriff's department were also out here speaking, saying it doesn't really exist, and that's a gang member. But he's like, it doesn't exist. We have brotherhoods. I'm like, yeah, it's a gang. I go, you guys have been creating gangs since the beginning of time. Like, what is the mentality of a gang, right? Fear. Forcing censorship, targeting your victims, making violent threat. You know what I mean? Like a whole number of activities here. And them being corrupt as shit. And making sure that it doesn't go any further than the complaints that were initially made. If you could even make a complaint, which they did not allow complaints to even be had, which made that even 10 times worse. And I'm sitting here going, how is this even legal? I've never even heard of this. They have to take a report. If I come in and I say a cop like touched me or any weird thing, they need to make a report. But they were blocking these reports, any report on them. They said so. And I was like, well, okay. I see we got a little bit of Mexico up in here. A little bit of sun. And outright, like, it's like they're not hiding it. And I was like, okay, yeah, we got a major problem here. And government wants me to go through this system because this is the system you have to go through. That's the system they set up. They have to go to them, try to get investigated internally, locally. And then if it doesn't work that way, then you go up another notch and a notch and a notch. Well, they were making sure that wasn't even going to go there. So when organized crime thrives, you see how it gets into government. So even further, it probably was always there. This is kind of the thing. So they know that the gang started around the 70s, the 1970s. But technically, they've always been there because they were always white supremacists, right? So if you go back into the further history of it, that's who created all these agencies. So it was always there. But they probably didn't have these names of groups like they do now. But as they do now, they have different groups of people. Now we have Hispanic gang members in there. We have a number of combination ones, multiple ones, right? So so it's hard to differentiate on any day of the week. If you were on the street and they came up to you, like, do you know what gang they're in? No, you know they're in a gang, but you don't. But you don't need to see their tattoos. You just know there's some bullshit going on. But you don't know which group they're with. And they travel, so mostly the ones in the city of industry. So they had them moving around. So they could be in city of industry one week, and the next week they're now in Baldwin Park. You know, they moved them around. So it's like, oh boy. So you can't really, it's hard to, really pinpoint those things unless they did have a definite tattoo, like the Grim Reaper ones that they had, like, so you would specifically know they were with this, that, the other. I do not believe they all had tattoos. That's another thing about it. So I was like, I mean, I can't say for certain, but I believe that some of these people may not have that going on, but they are definitely part of organized crime, just generally. So assisting those things, just a number of things. And then they come out here in the public like a typical Dem, like Eric Garcetti, who is trying to act like he's on our side, but he never was. And he's an evil devil. So he's another one that was a part of it. So all these people are around these gangs the whole time, and they're trying to pretend they didn't know gangs existed. That's just idiotic. Just really sit with that, you guys. They're bullshitting you to no end. And I told them. So it was like multiple times, and then we had proof that they lured me to the house, like this other one dude, and they're trying to act like that's a whole different thing. I go, but technically, if you actually go by the initial Luro trap, like where I put my information, if you read it, you will see that it's the officer being a predator and came after me because I didn't know anything that he was even that up until he said something, and then did the bullshit that him and his family did. So I was like, yeah, I don't know, I didn't do anything wrong, and why is he preying on Craigslist for women to go rent from his house, right? It's really bizarre. Just on its own, it is bizarre. But so that's what they did. And then they pretended like nothing bad happened here when it totally did, even at the time, with even LAPD was making threats to them. So I was kind of like, I don't see how you come to this conclusion when they actually got verbally, whatever with the other officers. So where's those officers? Yeah, there was a whole thing to it. So, but the internal is where you got to be worried about now because we know there's gang members in place, without a doubt, without a doubt right now. Because I talked to somebody. And I was like, oh God, this is really bad. It's just really bad. It's beyond fixing right now because even the people, the committees that are saying that they fix this stuff or trying to or whatever are nowhere near. Nah, no, nah. You're not even close because there's a long there's a connection to multiple people outside of law enforcement. So it goes into multiple agencies and into just as judges. It goes into a lot of areas. It isn't something that can be cleaned up overnight. Definitely not. It's something that had probably been festering in place, like I said, for decades, and I stumble on it and I'm just like, oh, this is so wrong, and then it's like, everybody's like, oh, isn't this normal? I mean, it's typical. We should expect it. It's like, no. And so that's the mentality you go against. It's just people that let it happen and they don't want to deal with it. I mean, who does really? I didn't want to. Um, and but you can't let that thrive. And unfortunately, it did for decades. It did for decades, and we're still nowhere near. And they're gaslighting the guilty parties involved in the organized crime. So they'll come out here and pretend like they're not part of it. So you have to be very aware of that. And I was telling people, I go, some of the ways that they were preying on people wasn't because they're these mean, evil people shooting up the place. You'll read the stories, but the way that they initially got their victims was being overly nice, like they're being a good citizen. Like, hi, I'm so and so. Oh, really? I'm going to listen to your problems and blah, 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 blah. Just like overly nice, right? And then they preyed on these girls. And so that's what they were doing. So it wasn't like you're seeing some crazy cop, like, get out of your car and, you know what I mean? It wasn't that. So the way they were perpetrating on the females in these stories were quite different. And if you weren't up on that, their gangs, you might go, those guys aren't part of it. But no, those are the guys that are part of it. And they were in tie with some other organized crime rings that had nothing to do with government. And that's where your problem is at. And they were rich men, and they became rich because they're all criminals, and they just helped each other out. And then now they're multimillionaires, and they continually just pay off. Like they just pay, they get sued. They were in the media. The one trafficker dude, he gets sued like multiple times, so he just paid people off because they. But how's he get to the point where he gets millions of dollars, right? You know what I mean? So I just watched this whole thing happen from the intro, from the time of the Harvey Weinstein thing, because that was the time period when I was working on that. They, got into a business tie, not Harvey, but the other people got into a business tie with this other individual, and then they just opened a place. So it was at the same time period. So I still to this day cannot identify if Harvey was one of the ones that were in there or not. He looks like the typical guy that we've seen. And even when I was working on this set, I couldn't tell you if that's the guy that was standing next to me or if that was another. I almost think it was, though. I'm just thinking it was because of the comment that was made, because it's one of two things. It's either that was Harvey next to me, or it was Harvey relaying messages to people on the set about Angelina, because to get that information, it came from them because of that weird thing with Molly. So I was like, yeah, that's I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't remember faces well, and he looks like somebody I ran across in my life, but I can't definitively. He could fit a couple of monster dudes I've seen, but even though I was there, it's just funny. But I do know there was at least two men that were having a discussion. That's what I know. It was two men having a discussion, and I was listening in. I was just standing right there with them. I wasn't talking to them. I was just standing there, like in the back, like with these two guys. I'm ratting them out. I'm smarter than I am. I know I had no idea. It was just the yes, but that's how we're getting our information by actually being on scene, where we're talking about on all this stuff. So I just happen to be in these situations, and I know the dynamics. So I'm just saying that that's not the way they're trying to present this story is not the way it actually is. It is not Jeffrey and the universe revolves around Jeffrey. It is absolutely, and I think that's really bad to do to all victims anyway, to like make it seem like there's this one head like kingpin, and then all these guys are just submissive to this kingpin Jeffrey. And I was like, that is literally not what is going on here. It is literally not the story. Peter Thiel is Peter Thiel is pretty terrible. Like I would actually consider him a worse person than Jeffrey on personality traits. Um, like Jeffrey's pretty bad, but like while I was listening to him, I was like, yeah, no, at least he has a sense of like something in him. Not a lot, but like not a lot. This is not. I just, because I know victims might hear this, it's like, I am not praising that dude on any level. It's just, I'm listening for traits. I'm listening to the void. I'm listening to their void from like humanity. And then like, I'm always trying to like size them up on the spectrum. Like, how far over do I think he is just by, the way he's talking about other people, him pathologically lying, maybe, just like that, going through this thing. Um, and it was not as far off as Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is like way worse on the spectrum of that type of human being. Now, Peter Thiel may have not a human trafficked anyone out, but we don't actually know that. I had some questions with this weird ex-boyfriend jumping off a balcony. So that dude is like a model. So why are we not looking into all that? I was like, I would totally expect that, where he's just so disconnected from his boy toys that they were secretly just, chronically depressed, or that's the type of guy he wants, or whatever the case, or took advantage of some guy trying to make it in the modeling industry. And then he jumps off a cliff. I mean, basically off a building. And it wasn't even shocking to me. It was almost like, that's like the type of guy he's going to get anyway. Somebody that is troubled, that doesn't have a lot of, like, maybe he had mental health issues, and why he would ever be connected to a Peter Thiel. Because the way I feel as a woman of how he speaks with us, and he also degraded gay men also early on at, what was it, Stanford? And that some gay man is going to hook up with this dude with no self-respect, basically. So maybe he promised, we don't know. Hypotheticals. We don't know if he lured and trapped him into some type of exchange situation there, and yet he's going on over here against slutty women. Okay, there's definitely going to be this hypocrisy. So he's up in here and nobody's looking at that. And I was like, yeah, every time there's a story and it says Peter Thiel is up in here stalking, and then went up to one of the boys, and I was like, what the hell? He starts giving him all the money. And I was like, yeah, well, isn't that sound not that great? So he's kind of using his position of power to like look for prey, And so Jeffrey wouldn't be any much different, right? Regardless of any age thing. So what do we got here? As we went through that thing. New files turned over. Suggests he was, in the last years of his life, had ties with Trump's former advisor, Elon Musk. Isn't it funny, though? Elon Musk goes up in here like, this guy's a pedo. And it's like, why are you calling anybody a pedo? Like, I mean, you can call anyone one, but like, what is that? You're hanging out with those two brother dudes, or whatever, those two that were like accused of whatnot, that Kanye wanted to hang out with. And they have no line. Like, you see, it has nothing to do with human trafficking. Like, they don't care about that. Like, that's like literally the farthest thing from their mind. So it's just a game. It's so funny. It's a lot of projection, because with women, when we come out, they will fling back at us like, oh, what a good way to take a man down. Oh, well, that must come from your mind, because we're not trying to do anything other than people need to go to jail for doing criminal acts like that. And it's not done as a malicious act to like do anything like that. And they're up here wanting to protect their white male bullshit up in here. And they're the ones that actually use it as a weapon on each other, which is really interesting. So I was like, yeah, that's quite a projection here, Elon. So he's the one that threw out on somebody else that they were a pedo. But yeah, he's hanging out with pedos. I mean, he doesn't care. It's really that. It's just a game. And then Trump didn't get rid of Epstein because of him being with kids. That had nothing to do with their feud. All I know is the feud, I believe, revolves around business crap. And then it become a thing where it's like, I'm mad at you for taking a property. I don't know, some crap like that, okay? It's something to do with that level of things. Musk had a tentative trip to Epstein's island on December 6th. I can believe that. Okay, so A note appended to the plan reads, is this still happening? At the time, Epstein owned a private island in the Virginia Islands. So, if you guys never believed me from the get-go, one of the things I said when QAnon came out, this is the unfortunate thing that I do believe that these monsters did. And I was trying to point it out because I go, you know what's so crazy about this? It's so close to the truth, but it's enough to throw you way off. Like some of the things that they were saying was they believe there's a group of men that rape some kids. Yeah, that's actually been just true in America since the very beginning of time. Okay. But, and then, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Those things are factually true. They're just factually true, but they use some weird terminology like cabal and I don't know. And then it just starts going into this weird stuff. And then they just started, and then what happens, right? So here's where it kind of forked off. That made it just like, what? Okay, so then they started going the Dems and Tom Hanks, and I don't know if Tom Hanks would be up in here, but anyway, what happened was I think this is my opinion on what these guys did is that they threw out part of the truth because everybody knew that he got busted for that, blah 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 blah. But then they wanted to steer it away from their political party because they're going to lose power. Okay, this is very important for these men to obtain and keep power. So what they try to do, so now didn't they just weaponize sex offenses? Yes, they did. So then they steered it off into politics and said all the Dems were the ones that did it. But the truth is, that's not what's going on up in here. In fact, the Dems and the Republicans on every day of the week hang out. And that's reality. So they're friends, they hang out at dinner things, they just have different political views, they're total buddy, half the time. And so it doesn't have like the only thing that's like true in this whole thing is that they're all rich people that hang out, which is classism, where they're in a group of people where the rest of us are not. I was dragged up into here a little bit, from my childhood because they're all pedophiles. I got us up in here, but the general population, are not part of their little bubble universe here of business. So basically, everything kind of revolves around business. Like, as I said, when they were dragging me around, it's like there's all these businessmen. There's just stupid shit. Like, and then they all prey on young girls or whatever the bullshit is. Like, it's like a candy store. And that's what I could tell you about the universe. But I never got brought to an island or even as far as some of this other stuff, thankfully, because I'm smart enough to like not put myself in that. Just because we're already dealing with somebody I didn't really want to be around with. Like there was a whole thing at this one portion and all I could think of is like being isolated with said person. Now, if I had gone on these further things to like Trump's marina, I don't even want to know because the story that Jeffrey threw out, I was like, that is awful. And I believe it. And it's just all these people have no freaking line, none. And so they're in the position of power and they warded off my case. Basically, I believe that's what happened because they lied to me in the victim of crime thing. And my time limit was not up. It was not up. And then they got the information. Then they wouldn't let me talk to anybody else, like, because I believe they didn't want me to spread the information to other humans. And then they let them go. And then they went after two other individuals in the industry, and it was bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit. Then they sat back and let the public target the crap out of me, and it's just so disgusting. Like, when you look at it, all the players in it, like, there's so many players in it. It's not funny, but you never see them all go down, right? You guys never seen them get arrested, right? You see, and if you see a person get arrested, the person is not operating alone. They're operating with multiple government people. They're operating with a number of people you don't even know. Like, these are just the famous people that we know in public. These are not just the only people that are involved in this, right? So that's just where it's at. And they manipulated the story into, he's the kingpin and everybody else is revolving around him and this bullshit, that bullshit. Peter Thiel is not in fear of a goddamn thing. And Elon Musk is not either. However, he does respond very well to abuse from other men. You abuse him, he'll come back like the child that he is. So another scheduled note, a planned lunch with tech billionaire Peter Thiel on November 27th, 2017. What happened to me right here? Something really bad, you guys. A fire began, like not too long after. And I got left in it by an officer. And then I made the media, right? So Peter Thiel is actually part of the story as far as the confronting some conduct. So, and a breakfast with conservative political strategist Steve Bannon. He's a political strategist. So now, they're plotting, manipulating, a lot of things. So I was outing, basically what was happening is I'm outing information that I may not even know at the time that was actually very relevant to particular individuals up in here that was part of organized crime. But I'm just outing, like the whole thing is I'm just being honest, right? It's just like an honesty thing where I'm saying, this is what happened. XYZ happened. So here's this document that they gave me. Boom. So the document is outing gang members of this one thing right here, right? Then I'm outing whose office I went into and where they put this notice at my home. And it's another government official somehow. And I go, why would they do that? Well, I'm being transparent in the public. And so the gang members see that and they're manipulating conduct. And then there's a setup. So they create a setup and then they started doing all these other things. And that's about roughly the time they started the targets too online. The muting and all this stuff after this political strategist bullshit, because it happened during this fight, right? So I said, oh, LAPD was throwing people in the street, doing all this stuff, and I had the documents to prove it. I still do, that they did that, and they're in the middle of being investigated by us. I think they're still in the middle of this. And I go, well, wow, that's pretty brazen. So that's what they did. And then I thought, oh, well, where's, the feds? Because what the hell? They're going to let this happen to me? Yeah. And they did. And when you read the stories about the gang members and the law enforcement, that's what they do. They try to get you killed. So no, they literally were trying to off me here. And I was like, oh my God, no wonder like you have anxiety, man, all the time, because it's just like that people are trying to off you in our government. And it's true, it's what they do all the time to certain groups of people. So I was like, and they were kidnapping. I found out in the middle of this, they were kidnapping people even more. Like it wasn't just from this 2007 portion. In 2007, I learned that they were kind of kidnapping people and dumping them in downtown. And then nobody cared because they hate humans. And then on this portion, I found out churches were basically kind of doing that. And they wouldn't let them leave properties. And I confronted one of the people about that. I go, you need to let people leave. And they should have the right to come and go when they please. And you can't hold people against their will on a property for hours. Okay? Like, I don't know what that is about. And so I started finding out all this stuff just being in places where most people are not. And it was foul as hell. And that was the Dems. The Dems were promoting it because these were the agencies that they were having deal with these people. So then they don't want me outing that either. Okay. There's just like a long list of like corruption, from our government. And I started noticing, oh my God, there's a lot of Dems. Like at somewhere around this point, I was like, oh, there is Dems, because from the point of the 2014 era to right here, all this foul crap happened. And I go, oh yeah, so so-and-so was in charge. This happened here. I went to the Obama DOJ. They're the ones that were totally, F off all this stuff. And then all these like different people, right? And I was like, oh, okay, the bigger picture is getting more clear now. You get away from the politics of it. And that's just from a lot of investigations, a lot of calls, a lot of them doing shit to me, a lot of everything. And no, I wouldn't have laid it out. It wasn't easy to lay out, but I know that we're still not fully, it's not complete. I will say with that. So he met with them months before he was charged. Now, some of the questions, and this was the same in the Nygaard case, and they were all in the same universe. FBI was contacted in the Nygaard case in 2015. Well, it almost seems like Nygaard had a flag up that that was happening, that somebody gave him the information. But you see that they have so many ties that the people in government are their friends and they leak information to them, just like we saw with that other Leslie Moon or whatever that moves case. Very similarly, that's how information is being passed along to this ultra rich crowd of idiots. And it almost appears like that could have happened right here too. So just before he was charged, so he may have been on the up. I don't know what happened right here. Like I don't know was he confronted again about it? Was he on the know that charges could come to him already? But here's Steve Bannon. Okay. Bannon was Trump's chief strategist, and Thiel is a prominent Republican mega donor to give money to. He's a sugar daddy to males. Basically, they shouldn't call him mega donor. They should call him a sugar daddy because they call us prosties, right? So he's a sugar daddy to males. That's what he is. Okay, just let's keep that clear. So these new files are notable in that they suggest all three powerful men had a relationship with Epstein after his controversial plea deal that forced him to register as a sex offender. Many people have argued that the non-prosecution agreement, which was signed in 2007, which strangely correlates to the conduct on me in that era right there, which involves, again, another celebrity group of people and officers. They come together. They come together. And I told you it was Trump's ex-wife or girlfriend that was one of the witnesses in my stuff. And she's the one that came out into the media. She's ridiculous. So she's the one that came out into the media and said a few words that made it sound like she didn't like Trump, and then came back and said, no, he's wonderful. I never said that. I don't know, bullshit. So she went on a whole, like, I'm going to cover for him bit. And all I could say is I know she would be up in here with drunk Janie Lane, and then Janie Lane dies, right? He's the one that dies out here in a hotel. And not once did he tell me that that was she was related to Trump. I think it was important because there's two Trump things in this, and nothing directly. It's more of a like indirectly from just other people. And I was like, yeah, that's really weird because I don't even recall anybody mentioning him. But you know, you're talking 2 decades ago, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't even know if it would have been relevant. Other than they were just like, we're going to XYZ. And I was like, I'm not traveling. I don't want to go on a plane. Thank God. Thank God. I keep going. I don't want to go on a plane. So, you know, there's no reason for me to be. It should be very clear to America that Jeffrey was friends with some of the most powerful and wealthiest men in the world. Yeah, so is Peter Thiel. So Peter Thiel is more dominant than Jeffrey. So I believe that Peter Thiel could literally like make Jeffrey like kiss his feet. So he's just not the center of the universe. I mean, I mean maybe the focus of that is they're saying all these really rich guys are hanging out with them and they're very powerful and wink, wink, you know. Yeah, well, we already knew. Over here, I was trying to tell the crowd. I was trying to push it back on this like pedo ring idea because it's more like all these men in the country have always been into kids, even by law, like literally by the book law. And it's them in the open. It isn't like, you know, it's this big secret. I'm like, everybody has that CD problem there or something, because we're over here going, can you change your AOC? Can you change your AOC already? And the last time you changed your AOC was in 1920, you know, state XYZ, right? Because we're going through it. But I believe that part of that is from ignorance. Another part of that is just from being groomed, because many of these people were groomed as kids and they think that it was okay because they were with an adult, whatever the case may be there. And these states have not got up to date with this conduct right here with children and these adult rich men abusing their positions of power, which is called hyphen pop. We call it pop. Um, but the yeah, it's like, but everybody knows it's like by now. It's like, but your state allowed him to be with the 16-year-old. Why is your state even giving the door to rich men like this? And it could be on a male, because it could be Peter Thiel coming in on a male. It could be Kamala coming in on a 12-year-old. It could be any of these like mixtures of things that shouldn't even be going on. But they fake, they fake their outrage by making a law saying they're going to do a death penalty on some person that did XYZ under 12, because at age 12 is totally fine. And you should note this because that was the initial laws actually, where they wanted 12-year-olds. So they're outing themselves at the same time. We'll just put it that way. I don't know what the Thal Foundation is. Is that like for young lost boys that I will mentor? I don't know, man, but it couldn't be good. A GOP spokesperson for oversight panel blasted the Democrats' decision to release information unilaterally. It's unfortunate that Dems continue to meaningless cherry pick documents and politicize this investigation. They are intentionally withholding documents that contain names of Democrat officials, and information they released today is old news. I didn't read any of that before, but I would assume that they probably were part of it anyway. However, the person speaking on behalf of the GOP majority declined to name those Democrat officials, saying Republicans would wait to release the files in full once victims' names were redacted. Meaning, once we can manipulate the information coming forward and making sure that if it makes me look bad, that I got to make it look better, so at least the public reads it and not catches that I'm totally guilty up in here. So it's funny that they turn it, they're both doing it. So it's just a game of you did it, you did it, you did it, you did it. But another thing to this is that no, they did withhold that these people were involved. And the whole time they were saying that they were not, they were saying it's false, all these things, and yada, yada, yada. But we had the same thing happen in the Nygaard case as well. And a lot of these people got away with stuff. I don't know how this is going on, and then you see this, right? And it shows you the level of why it's telling you why. Like when you go into the police department, you're blocked by gang members, aka organized crime, and they're there to protect this class of people. And so they're meant to sit there and treat you like shit because they believe you're here put on earth to be their sex toy. So basically, like, well, who are you to be coming up and complaining that us rich men did this bullshit? They know what they did. When you do a conduct to somebody, you know what you did. Like, if you're being confronted on it, it's not a like total mystery. Like, wow, I don't think I, preyed on anyone. I mean, you did some bullshit. And so, and this is very typical conduct of criminals. Like even just go to the prison when they confront them, they're lying there because they don't want to go to prison. Who the hell wants to go to prison, right? But in a lot of these cases, even if they admit it, they don't go to prison. So I would suggest to everyone out here, don't fall into the political game between both parties. Both parties. Disregard both parties as any party, and look at this story from afar. It's all these men, and they're all these rich men that are running our country, and that's why there hasn't been any justice, done for mostly a lot of women. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of male victims up in here with some different individuals, and they're not getting any of that either. And you saw Kevin Spacey got protected by the other gay men up in here because those gay men as well also have allegations. To keep that in mind. So you need to remove yourself from any political thing to really understand the story and who really is the problem. It isn't, oh, just the Dems or oh, just the Republicans. It's literally both these parties right here. And they don't, and you see how they don't care about either one of us, like us as victims to any of this kind of crap. Again, it's about them keeping their position of power in our government and keeping us down. So that's really where this lands. And to not fall into the bullshit that they throw out at you because they wanted to steer you off that they were all involved. That's really where it landed. To add 2 more cents to this, so they bring up that it's interesting because Musk mentioned the release of the files because he ends up being mentioned in it, but he's like, how can people expect to have faith in Trump if he won't release the files? And then we already know about Bill Gates being part of that thing, and then I got questions from some people up here that think like I'm off my rocker, like talking about some stuff. I go, but I'm actually a victim up in here from a different party, a different party, and not these guys up in here. So I was like disturbed because I kind of know what's going on. Like I know the framework of how this happened, but the disturbing part to this was them trying to discredit a single victim because she had mental health problems. Just because somebody has mental health problems doesn't mean the conduct did not happen. Obviously, this dude has been up on different stories, Prince Andrew, and then what the media did was write up a story, and they're like, well, we don't know about blackmail, which it came from this one victim. So-and-so, the one that dies, right? And then it was almost like they were trying to discredit her testimony on this stuff. And I go, the whole thing is blackmail. So have you guys not done, see, a lot of people do not work for themselves. A lot of people never dealt with any powerful people that run a business. And unfortunately, in that combination of things, there's chronic blackmailing. I mean, it's just like an everyday thing for some idiots up in here. And so we have, if we go into the business world of where they were trying to target and all this stuff, they just wanted to be able to make all the money for themselves, by the way, everybody. And I happen to have some information about content creation, which was very brand new. And there was a lot, billions of dollar industry. And somebody told, it was funny because the person that learned about it and started making a buttload of money, when she was talking to me, she basically was like, don't tell other people, because I think part of it, like in my opinion, was more due to like the worry of saturation and then taking away from their plate, type of thinking. But I don't think that way because it's like you still have to work really hard in order to make income from any type of, you talk about like YouTube content or any type of content you make, because there's a bazillion different types of content you can create. You could do teaching, you could do anything. But if it's not something the public wants, then what's it a threat to you? But unfortunately, like there was a lot of people that were brand new to this game and they didn't know anything about it. And there was a number of rich individuals up in here that wanted to jump in on that and cash in, and you could just figure who they were. But another individual is the one that got murdered. And I was talking about that. I go, he realized that money was being made content. So his brain was like, cha-ching, greed monster that he is. And was like trying to get money from me, just making stuff up. And I was like, thankfully I don't own the rights to what happened here. So there was a thing that happened. So, but he okayed it, but he didn't know what it was about. Like, I guess it was just like it was new to him or something. So he turns around and he tries to get me to give him money from something that has zero to do with his ass. And I'm in an office alone with this guy. I'm like, I cannot believe this fool has the balls to sit there and tries to get money from me for something he has nothing to do. I mean, nothing, like legitimately. So then he turns around, he's like, well, can you tell me what you guys are doing? Like this whole other thing. And just to get the hell out of the office, I ran down just a couple things about it. I was just like, well, you could go this way, that way, the other, blah, blah, blah. And that was it, you know, and I don't know what the hell he's going to do. So the next thing he does is he uses a bunch of women. Oh my God. And I didn't even know what he did until this girl tells me. And I go, do you understand that that's not how that site works? And then also, you should have been making a lot of money. So it means that he's not giving you anything and you have no way to track that. And I cannot believe that happened. And so he saw a way to manipulate and got a whole bunch of people to do stuff for him to make him money. And then he gave them almost nothing. She said he gave her $1. That's insane. I go, you could make hundreds and thousands of dollars that on that thing for yourself. Why would you let this dude do this to that? And she just didn't do anything. And then it's still ongoing. Like they're both dead right now, but somebody's taking the money. And I'm like, this whole thing is foul and somebody should look into it. But yeah, that's what happened. So they tried to blackmail me. Like there was a whole like little setup right there, but I had to just to get out of the office. It was just like, oh, blah 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 blah. And then I wouldn't have figured that he did that. Like he went on his own because they got greedy. And then the other people that were doing stuff like that was they were talking about a whole bunch of people. Mostly when you go into that Kardashian side of universe, there was all those people, and they were trying to use women to profit bazillions of dollars. And then the women came out finally, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't get paid anything." And then and then the other famous girls that did the documentary, I go, "Yeah, that's what they were trying to do." And then so, the concept of paying men is like a joke. Like at this point, like, yeah, but no, that actually, like the whole thing, like it was really foul right here at the intro of content creation. So then the men took over the industry, as you see, they created YouTube, which came way later. So YouTube comes up and then they want to kind of hog up the place. And then it's all geared towards men, and it shows you white men. And that's like when you look at the data, it is way geared towards that. So there's a ultra bias, obviously. It wouldn't be that there's more women in the world. So why does your site look like that, right? There's a lot to it, but it was just kind of the whole intro into the filthy world of the internet, of online content. And these men took over the industry and they wanted to control it. So they're not against like the content. They want to control it and make all the money from it. And so that's the reality of it. But they'll slut shame every woman and whatever so they can take over the, let's say the website or like as you see, they're trying to do a TikTok. Like they're trying to take over everything and take all the money from it. They're not against any other bullshit. They will lie and manipulate and say, oh, China's doing all this crap. And then they're really not. And then they just want to take it all. I mean, that's literally the filth of the sharks up in here. And they are lying to you guys and gaslighting so you get on board with their evil so they can go take, control of that. And I think that's what had to do with the Trump thing, is maybe he wanted a property and Epstein was like, I'm taking it. I don't know. Something happened where a feud began, and it would be something revolving around that. Maybe some of you guys know the actual story, but it's something revolving around bullshit like that, and not anything to do with, oh my God, he got totally accused of this and in trouble. Like that guy would care. Elon probably feels safe in the story because I don't know if he did anything. It's kind of hard to say. He's been a little shady up in here for a number of stories. And then when he's involved in a story, he stands back from this. You're being accused of something and then you just don't talk about it. I don't know. So then it makes you look guilty as hell. So I don't really know. And then he lets women suffer. So he's very terrible with his own kids. You know what I mean? Like you look at this thing, he's just he has no morals and he has no line. It's like whatever fits his thing for the day. But the truth may be that he wasn't actually involved directly with any of the females that were there. He may have been, but he may not have been. And if he wasn't, then he may feel, that's why he feels so confident in throwing, Trump under the bus like that. Because all he's going to say is, Yeah, I went to the island, but I didn't see anything going on there, so I don't know any further information. You could just play the game of that. I mean, is there allegations that he did something to some girl? Here's another problem with this stuff because they have so much money, you guys. They just pay people off and put them under silence. And it makes them more difficult because it's like Elon could have like 20 victims out here and none of us know because they're all paid off and they're not really allowed to say anything bad because if they do, then they lose, whatever money they're getting. He's gonna do horrible things to that, you know what I mean? And so they may not even want to go into that. It's just hypotheticals, but that actually is so common up in here that it skews the picture and reality of what really is going on. Someone's going to ask me more specifically on the blackmail. So what he said was he pulled me in the office, and mind you, this is not my production company. Just want to let you guys know. I got paid from the production company to do another thing, and they set it up and the location and everything. So the person that they set the location up pulls me in their office alone and said, "Hey, use my location. I think you owe me some money." And I was like, what the hell? I don't know anybody any money. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. And it went into this whole thing. But yeah, it was the setup for it. Like I automatically owed him money because another production used their location. And then he turns around. He's like, well, I want in on what you guys are all doing up in here. I was like, oh my God, these people are so filthy. But he ends up getting killed, right? Because he's such a filthy person that is conduct to everyone. We're not trying to like victim blame that this should ever happen to anybody, but the level of criminality of that person in their brain is just beyond. Like it was like the person that they were abusing couldn't take it anymore, and the person did that. But they did not present the story in the public properly, in the proper manner. It is not good what he did right there to that person. That person is technically a victim to him. Both people are predators to me, both of them. And so there's no good in this story, like none. This is just the shady world of business with white men, okay? But it was just like, you analyze this whole thing and it's sort of like, oh, you be a shark, you get bit by another shark. It's the same universe these people are in. It's just business. It's like blackmail chronically. Like they constantly find something to try to get money from you, and they've constantly done it to me, and it's really difficult to even like do business because as your own boss, as I've been for like 2 decades, I have to deal with men. They own all the websites, they own the marketing thing, they own all these different things. So technically I don't have as much control as you would think I do. And, maybe other people will tell you the same thing. It's like you have to go through these avenues. And if Peter Thiel is in charge of how I get paid, well, he could cut me off. And then guess what? I don't thrive because Peter's a D word. And that's what I was saying. I was trying to let people know, they own everything. I've said this constantly from day one when this started up. I was like, the thing is, they own everything. The internet I'm on, every site that I go through, it is hosted by Bezos. It's, you know what I mean? Like they own everything. And if they want to do damages to me, which they have, they could do it on the furthest back end. Okay. They could do quite a bit of damage, and they have. And so like I'm saying, they own everything. To you guys hearing me, even if it looks like I'm capable of posting something, they have ways to make you not find that very easily. So they have done all kinds of trickery up in here. I was like, wow, I mean, you can't even keep up with that because the technology today, it's so advanced, and we're getting less and less able to control the bullshit on this end Because before, it's just like the internet's new. You just kind of go around it. You go somewhere else. You do this. Well, if you own everything, there's no corner of the universe that you get to go into a forum and talk about it without them targeting the hell out of you again. So, it isn't. It just isn't like the from the initial time period when we went out these guys. But yeah, so now it's beyond, and we need to control that because that is a form of censorship, and they should not be censoring groups of people that they just don't like, okay? That they just do not like what they say. On any part of the internet, regardless if you call them a hate group, whatever you call them, they have a right to exist. It doesn't mean that we agree with any bullshit that they're doing, but that needs to exist for the fairness of everybody out here and for the safety of the public, believe it or not. It's not that somebody reads it and goes, wow, that's a good ideology, and then jumps into it. That's not what's going on. Even though they kind of presented it that way, that's actually not really going on. They're presenting it like there's this group of people that are just like, I hate XYZ group of people. We have this ideology, and some like poor boy comes along and he reads it and then he gets sucked into it and then he goes out and does stuff. It's more that that person already had those set beliefs, and then they want to be part of a group and then they do that. But they would have done that anyway, like off or online or anywhere, but it's showing like at least the transparency of that, like where you can go to their thing and read what they're saying and then try to tackle that in that way than it is to mute it entirely out, and then this other thing's happening in the background and then they go blow themselves up, somewhere, which has happened. So I was like, yeah, that's not, there's a lot to that topic, but yeah, but it's still part of freedom of speech, even though you don't like it. Topics, the people that they censored there were not part of a hate group. They were part of a group that I somewhat kind of get, and I know time should have led to that, but it did for other external reasons here. But they didn't hurt anybody else. But the whole thing about suppression that society teaches is one of the main points in some of the conduct that we're seeing, and we shouldn't be promoting it on any level. I think it would have been much better if they were able to express themselves more and other more healthy people could come into the topic and kind of divert some of that. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. So some of those things right there that I was looking at. But yeah. They own everything, they control everything, and they manipulate how I can get paid. They if they don't like something I do, then it's these guys right here, the hypocritical idiots, are the ones that will go, oh, you know what, we just don't like that. So we're gonna tell her what to do today, and we're gonna do this force through this thing, and we're gonna cut off her income. Yeah, basically. Oh, what? She said something bad about me? Oh, we're gonna totally target the shit out of her. Yeah, okay, so this shouldn't be going on. So,